Good morning, everyone joining us today. It is a pleasure to be with you to discuss such an important topic, ultimate beneficial owner, tax and accounting implications. My name is Roberto Cantú, tax partner in Monterrey office, and I have the honor of moderating this session. Before we begin, allow me to brief share who we are. At Forvis Mazars, we offer customized solutions in audit, in tax, in outsourcing, in consulting, financial advisory, sustainability, and legal services, both globally and locally. In Mexico, we have a presence in Mexico City, in Guadalajara, in Mexicali, in Monterrey, in Puebla, in Querétaro, in San Luis, and Toluca. Our team is built up of more than 570 professionals, led by 21 partners, allowing us to serve our clients' needs exceptionally well, regardless of their size, location, or sector. Next slide, please. Thanks, Nat. Today, I'm joined by our expert from tax team, Francisco Ceballos, senior manager. Francisco is an attorney with a master's degree in tax law, and he has more than 12 years of experience in tax consultancy and advisory services for both domestic and foreign individuals and corporations. He has participated in corporate restructuring, mergers and acquisitions, project financing for special transactions, and the incorporation of new companies in Mexico. Next slide, please. The topics we will cover today as a background of these regulations, tax regulations specifically, which are our key obligations, which are the risks and the penalties, and we will have a special minutes for question and answers. At the end of the session, we will have time for question and answers. We invite you to write your questions in the chat at any moment. Additionally, at the end of the webinar, we will launch a very brief satisfaction survey, which we kindly ask you to complete. It will take no more than 5 minutes and help us understand how we can improve for you. Okay, well, let's start with the background. Please, Francisco, go ahead.
Thank you, Roberto, and thank you to everyone who is joining us today. It is my privilege and my pleasure to be with you today, talking about ultimate beneficiary owner and its tax implications in Mexico. First and foremost, I would like to begin with a little bit of background regarding beneficial owner and its compliance, right? So the obligation to identify the ultimate beneficial owner of the company or UBO arises within the framework of anti-money laundering provisions. And it is from this area in which this obligation arises, and not only the obligation, but the entire doctrine and the entire reasoning behind how to identify and why is it important to identify the UBO for a company. It's all arising from anti-money laundering provisions, which will be relevant when we get into the more tax-specific aspects of the UBO compliance. So what UBO compliance basically entails is that you need to identify, what it amounts to in anti-money laundering provisions is that you need to identify your counterparty's UBO when carrying out vulnerable activities and transactions with him. Vulnerable activities and transactions are a concept of anti-money laundering provisions. And whenever you undertake a transaction of this kind, you need to identify the UBO of your counterparty to make sure that all anti-money laundering provisions are complied with, right? so that you are not directly involved in funding illicit activities. So, what the UBO is, it's a natural person or group of natural persons who ultimately own or control a company and who ultimately receive the benefits derived from the company's economic activity, whether it be directly or indirectly, which is also an important concept to keep in mind, this idea of direct or indirect benefit or control. So the UBO entails two aspects, the benefit aspect and the control aspect. Benefit refers to the persons who ultimately own or control the transactions undertaken by the company, and who ultimately receive, say, the dividend payments or the profit distributions of the company itself. And the control aspects entails that these natural persons exercise effective control in the strategic decision making of the legal entity. So one entails the distribution of profits, whereas the other entails the undertaking of important business or strategic decisions within the company. So in Mexico, all your UBO compliance needs to be filed before the Ministry of Economy's online portal, which is called the PSM per its acronym in Spanish. And all this information is made public, and you need to preemptively file it as opposed to expect the authorities to demand it of you. So this is a preemptive compliance, and it's before the economic authorities in Mexico. Next slide, please. Now, the concept of the UBO arises from global efforts to counter money laundering and illicit and funding of illicit activities. And the three most important international treaties regarding UBO compliance are the Financial Action Task Force recommendations, which is basically a call of action to the countries that are signatories of the treaty, that to keep accurate and up-to-date information regarding all the beneficial owners. You have United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which also requires state parties to adopt measures to facilitate corporate transparency, including access to ownership information. And lastly, we have the International Monetary Fund's transparency standards, which emphasize that the beneficial owner must always be a natural person, and that countries should implement systems to ensure the adequate and up-to-date information for UBO. So basically, these international treaties call for the signatory countries to implement UBO compliance. And we have seen that Mexico has already implemented, and also a good many deal of other countries have implemented UBO compliance requirements. So this is not a specific Mexican regulation. It is an international. It is an internationally recognized concept, and it should not be foreign or alien to either Mexican or foreign entities who undertake transactions in Mexico. So this is all to say that countries are obligated to implement UBO compliance regulations in their specific countries, which Mexico already does, and we will get into it shortly.
And just to complement what you have said, I think this is very important because give us the background on why do we need to be in compliance with these regulations. It raised as an effort from the Mexican government to avoid or to challenge all these money laundering issues. Um, but it is not an independent effort. I think it helps, or it has been helped by the international institutions like the ones that you have mentioned here. And it is basically taking the rules or debates that are uh, played or taken in consideration in international environment, and then transfer or customize these rules to the Mexican environment. So when the first time that we hear that, I remember that was something very surprising for us because we were not used to share this kind of information to the authorities, to the Mexican authorities. But if we look in other countries than Mexico, we will find that this is not a new practice. This has been made from several years ago. So when we ask for information, for example, for companies in US or for companies in Europe, they know what we are looking for. So it's something that we already see with our Forvis Mazars firms in the US and Europe. They sometimes request some information from our site. Sometimes we request some information from them to complete this information of the ultimate beneficial owner. So it's important to have in mind that that is a common practice around the world, and it is something that the Mexican government is trying to do to try to make an extra effort on avoiding all the anti-money laundering or do an effort in anti-money laundering matters.
Yes, it's not a Mexican idiosyncrasy to implement this kind of compliance. It is actually part of an international effort to counter such practices, which in Mexico they are a tremendous problem. So it is part of that effort to counter money laundering. And this is not like Mexico specific, but rather it is part of an international effort to counter these practices. So, getting into topic regarding tax regulation in Mexico, why are anti-money laundering provisions being enforced by the Mexican tax authorities? It is what may be a little bit idiosyncratic of Mexico is the fact that it's the tax authorities that are enforcing UBO regulations as opposed to the economic authorities or the financial authorities rather. This effort to this effort, yes, to enforce UBO regulations has been, for lack of a better word, outsourced from the Mexican economic authorities to the Mexican tax authorities, presumably because of their expertise and efficiency undertaking such corporate investigations. The Mexican tax services are very adept and are very efficient at tax collection, and the UBO compliance is being entrusted to the tax authorities to rather than the economic authorities. And this is at the very least curious, but I think it's important that because tax authorities usually um, their main effort is to identify um, omitted tax payments. So the kind of corporate investigations that they undertake, their objective is to identify and quantify how much tax has been omitted from the payments. So now they are enforcing UBO compliance. There is no tax. There is no omitted tax payments, but rather this is just like entirely a formal tax compliance. So this has been part of the Mexican tax regulations since 2022. The Article 32B ter 30 and such provisions state that legal entities and trusts are required to obtain and retain and integrate as part of their accounting records all the information which needs to be completed, needs to be up to date regarding their ultimate beneficial owners. So, and what the companies and trusts in Mexico need to do is to just have this information, have it complete, have it up to date, and have it integrated with the rest of the accounting records in order to be provided to the tax authorities in the case that they be requested. This is an important distinction because as opposed to the economic compliance of UBO, this information needn't be provided preemptively to the tax authorities, but rather it's to be held within the records and filed upon being requested. So takeaways are the UBO information is part of the accounting records. So all the obligations regarding bookkeeping are also applicable to the UBO records. So also no notice is to be submitted or no informative return is to be submitted, but rather the information is to be retained until requested. And another important thing, all legal entities and trusts and even like non-companies such as joint ventures or trusts are also subject to UBO compliance. And the UBO must always be an individual, a natural person, even if that individual is not Mexican or Mexican resident. Next one, please.
If you want, give me the opportunity. Thanks. I think this is basically the main point of what we have discussing here is, as Francisco said, recently, or since 2022, the tax authority, the SAT, has the capability to review the compliance of, or we have a new regulation or a new obligation in the sense of the ultimate beneficiary owner, and we need to have it as part of the accounting records. And this is very important because what we have seen during the last months of the past year and the first couple of months from this year is that in the tax audits that they are performing, the formal audits, as part of the accounting, they are requesting the information of UBO, the ultimate beneficial owner. So it is very important because when we have this kind of audit, I mean, a formal audit from the tax authority, the accounting records has to be shared with them immediately and the same day that they request or they visit us in our offices. And we need to provide them this information together with all accounting records. And if not, they take notes and consider this an omission of the compliance of this regulation. So it is very important to be aware that which could be the reaction time period that we can have when the tax authorities perform an formal audit in our offices. Because commonly what we have in our minds is, okay, the tax authorities will be requesting information. We will have, let's say, 10 days, 15 days to attend this specific request of information related to the ultimate beneficiary owner. But it will depend on which kind of audit the tax authority is performing. As we already know, they have this kind of invitation letters that are not too formal, but in some ways a friendly invitation or a friendly approach from the tax authorities. Then we have the how do you say it, formal in deep review. I don't know how to say this kind of review, which is basically having a conference with them, not too formal, but it is kind of a review, a specific review on some specific cases for provisional payments, annual tax returns, etc.
Yes.
And then the third level, sorry,
Ah,
Francisco. Okay.
sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And the third level could be the formal audit. Then in the formal audit, we are commonly obligated to share all accounting records. And in these accounting records, we are obligated to include the UBO information. And commonly in these formal audits, we don't have any time to react or to prepare this information. So fortunately, in the three cases we have, we already work with our clients in this information, so we were able to provide them in different levels because depending on the situation of the client, the level of complexity of the corporate structure is how we address and we prepare all this UBO information. But we were able to share with the tax authorities in the same day they come to visit us this information. So what we are trying to say here is we need to be prepared because as a result as well of the tax reforms to the Federal Fiscal Code recently made, I mean, in force for this year, the tax authorities will be they have much capabilities right now to perform quick audits, and they will be in the they have these new tools to provide more information and perform these tax audits in a sooner or a quicker manner than they had in the past. So it is very important to have this in mind because it will be we thought will be that something that the tax authorities will be focused a lot during the next couple of months, because at the end of the day, as Francisco will be sharing with you, the penalties are really considerable or representative. Let me say in that way. So will be something very easy to the tax authorities to request the information, and if you don't have it, basically they can go into the penalties and will be something easy for them to audit this kind of information.
Yes. Uh, so the first thing the taxpayers that Mexican entities need to undertake is determining who the ultimate beneficial owner is, and the second aspect is to compile all their information, all of their personal information. So the criteria for determining the UBO is to identify, verify, and validate the information relating to the ultimate beneficial owners, indicating the percentage of participation in the capital of the company, including information regarding ownership chain in cases where the beneficial owners holds such position indirectly. Uh, when no natural person or no individual can be identified under the criteria established under this rule, the person acting as the sole administrator or the board of directors will be deemed as the default UBOs of the company. And if the legal entity has a board of directors or equivalent, each member of the board will be considered to be the UBO. So basically, when you, first and foremost, you are looking for someone who has both a position in the capital of the company and also is involved in the decision-making process. So the most common thing is to have a one of the main shareholders being also the sole administrator, right? If a company were to operate like that, then the UBO compliance will be rather simple because it will be very easy to identify. The more complex and sophisticated a corporate structure is, the more complex and difficult it is to identify who the UBO actually is, especially regarding corporate structures which sprawl multiple jurisdictions, which sprawl multiple investment vehicles, whether they be transparent entities in foreign, in offshore jurisdictions, or whether it be, that the control is exercised in ways different than an actual board of directors. So all of these variables need to be taken into account in order to identify who the UBO of the company is. And if this, either the benefit or the control are exercised indirectly, then you need to go all the way up to the corporate structure, to the corporate chain, in order to identify the individual who is both the beneficiary and the control and who exercises control. Now, you can, if you don't have an individual who has both control and benefit, then you are looking for someone who has control, even if they don't have the benefit. And that is why the default rule is that if the UBO cannot be identified, then the entire board of directors is the UBO. It is precisely because of that control criteria. It is because they exercise control. Now, if control is exercised indirectly by way of a holding entity or other such indirect structures, or maybe the company has a board of directors, but all of those board of directors are external to the company, then such analysis need to be made in order to identify, to determine who the actual individual is who holds this status of beneficial owner. It is a succession of criteria regarding both benefit and control, and whether it's being exercised directly or indirectly. This is why you need to have it all or have it all made ready before the tax authority is requested, which ties to what Roberto was saying earlier. All this information need to be made ready immediately. And if the company has a rather complex corporate structure, then maybe this exercise of identifying the UBO may not be so straightforward as a company which, say, has a less complicated corporate structure. Now, the key obligations regarding UBO compliance. Basically, the entire UBO compliance entails that you have the readily available the information of the beneficial owner. And this information is separated into two categories. First and foremost is the personal information of the UBO themselves, which is full name, nickname, date of birth, gender, nationality. What we have in Mexico, the CURP, which is basically your like citizen's ID, something like that. Country of tax residence, an official identification, tax ID, marital status, residential address, and so on. That is the personal information of the UBO. The second aspect is the relationship of the UBO with the legal entity itself, which means relationship with the legal entity, which what capacity or what role do they hold in the entity? Are they the main shareholder? Are they the sole the general director? Maybe it's not the general director, but it's the CEO or the CFO, if such person may be undertaking the strategic decisions. The degree of participation in the legal entity, which enables to exercise the benefit or the control, and in a description of the form in which the participation or control is being held. This ties with what I was saying earlier about the direct or indirect control. All of this needs to be broken down and have it available for the tax authorities. Next one, please. And also information about where the shares are being deposited, where are they being held in custody, the specific date in which this person acquired the status of UBO. Where applicable, provide information regarding the sole administrator or the members of the board of directors, and date in which the participation or control was modified. So basically, the whole file of the UBO is information about the UBO themselves and the relationship they have with the company, whether they be shareholders, whether they be the key decision makers, and whether these are being exercised directly or indirectly. And all of this needs to be broken down in the defense file, what we call the defense file, which is it is not enough to say, well, this person is the UBO and that's that. You need to provide the information which qualifies him or her as the UBO. Why are they the UBO? Are they the UBO because they're the proprietors? Or are they the UBO because they are the key decision makers? Or are they both? Or are they other UBOs? The UBO is not limited to one single individual, but rather could be a number of them. And this is also another criteria. How does a group of persons be identified as quote unquote a group, right? Why are they? Why would they all share the UBO tag? But all of this is the kinds of analysis that companies need to undertake in order to identify their own UBOs. It may not be as straightforward. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is very straightforward who the UBO is, and sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, and further analysis is required. So all of this breakdown needs to be included in the file and be made readily available to the authorities. Next one, please. In the event that the ownership or the control is being exercised indirectly, this is the additional information that needs to be provided, which is all about the intermediary entities for this property or control. Name of the company, trusts, or legal arrangements that hold participation over the legal entity, country or jurisdiction of their creation, country or jurisdiction of tax residence, tax ID, and tax address. This is for all the intermediary companies if the ownership or the control is being exercised indirectly. Next one, please. So we have talked about the obligations, we have talked about the compliance, and now we are going to get into the risks and penalties. As we were saying before, it is a little bit unusual for the tax authorities to be enforcing the UBO compliance because there is not a omitted tax in this regard. So, but what there is penalties. There are important penalties for the non-compliance of UBO regulations, and the tax authorities are being granted the faculty, the capacity to impose such penalties, and we see now that the tax authorities are imposing penalties as part of their tax collection practices. So there may not be an omitted tax, but there may be a penalty that would be for the tax authorities be considered as part of their tax collection. So what are these penalties all about? First and foremost, failure to obtain, retain, or provide information regarding the UBO within the deadlines set by the tax authorities can give way to penalties up to 2.3 million pesos per UBO. This is why it's important to keep in mind that the UBO may be more than one person, because that's 2.3 million pesos for each one of them. And so taxpayers may be liable to more than one of these penalties if they don't have their file complete. Now, this is the foremost penalty for non-compliance, but you also have penalties for if the information regarding the UBO is not up to date. If it's outdated, it can also be subject to penalty, and also it's subject to penalty if the information is not complete. So if you do not provide every single one of the items that we just went through in the preceding slides, then you may also be liable to penalties, even if they are not as severe as 2.3 million per UBO. But something to keep in mind, this is the actual contingency for not having a complete UBO defense file. Next one, please.
And well, just to complement here, Francisco, I think what we haven't seen yet, it is a direct audit where the tax authority just requests information related with UBO. Could be something that we see in the next couple of months. But per se, right now, we have not had this experience. However, as we said, they are requesting this information as part of the accounting records. So due to the new facilities or capabilities that the tax authorities has right now to perform tax audits, will be much simple from their side to request and review this kind of information as part of the accounting record. So these penalties will be certainly something important to have in mind, because As you already know, for this specific year, and the tax authorities has a lot of pressure on collection of taxes in Mexico. They have shown the projections for tax collections for the projection of the year. And what they have openly shared is they are going to be looking for very simple methodologies on collect more taxes. That means quick audits focusing on simple things like requesting information of the UBO, tax difference that they identify automatically by the robots, and they basically are focusing right now on this kind of we can say these opportunity areas that they have observed. It is very simple for them to obtain some tax collections. For example, just other example, they have identified custom sites, all the import export duties. It is very simple for them to get some taxes over there. So they have identified this couple of points where it is very easy for them to obtain taxes without too much effort. So it is very important because we understand that in some point they start looking there is an opportunity area for them in ultimate beneficiary owner. And as you can see, the penalties are very high. Not necessarily you will have, if you don't comply, you will have this amount for the penalty. But however, will be something important. Um, so it is very likely to start seeing tax audit in this matter or in this way.
Yes,
Um,
I'm sorry, just to say quickly, the tax authorities may request this information as part of a formal audit process, or they may request it informally as part of like an invitation letter or the deep reviews that we were talking about earlier. We expect that that UBO specific enforcement will be made through informal channels, whereas within formal audits, it will be a little bit of an afterthought. It will be requested as part of the general bookkeeping records, and not meaning we are not expecting to see UBO specific audit process.
that's right. Okay.
Now,
Well,
if anybody in the audience has any questions for us, we would be happy to address them.
well, we have a couple of questions here. The first one said, at what moment can the SAT request beneficial owner information?
Uh, they can do it at any point, really. This ties into what we were saying earlier. This information can be requested as part of a formal audit process within the framework of requesting your general accounting or your general bookkeeping records. As they do when formal audit processes begin, they just request all of it. They don't focus on specific information, but they can also be requested as part of an informal process, which usually take the form of like invitation letters or deep review processes in which no tax liabilities are determined, but tax authorities request information regarding the bookkeeping of the company. So it can be done in both of those situations.
Just a comment to clarify this point you were mentioning. Accounting must be available at any time for the tax authorities. So it is very important to have to keep this in mind because it's something that they could request and we need to share with them immediately. The second one said, if how is beneficial owner information incorporated into the company's accounting records?
This ties to what you were saying earlier. The reason why the importance for this information to be integrated within the bookkeeping records is because they need to be made readily available to the tax authorities immediately upon request. And there are several obligations and several guidelines to be followed regarding bookkeeping. How are they to be kept? Where are they to be kept? How do you make them readily available to the tax authorities? So when we say that the UBO information needs to be integrated within the bookkeeping records of the company, what we mean or what it entails is that they need to follow these guidelines. They need to be, for example, be kept physically in the tax domicile of the entity. Just to say a few. And this is what it entails. For Mexican tax purposes, bookkeeping is not is basically all of the information regarding your operation. So contracts are part of your bookkeeping records. Things like information about your employees are considered to be bookkeeping records. And in this case, the information about your UBO is considered to be part of your bookkeeping records also.
Perfect. Thank you, Francisco. Okay. Well, I think there's another couple of questions. We will be responding to your questions personally through email, just to respect the time for all participants here. To close, I would like to thank you, Francisco, for sharing this valuable information. And most importantly, I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. We hope this session was helpful as you begin your year informed and supported in this specific matter. Please feel free to contact us if you need more information on how can we assist you. And please do not forget to complete our satisfaction survey, which will appear at the end of the session, as your feedback helps us continue creating valuable content for you. And thank you once again. I would like to take this opportunity to wish you the best for this year, and we look forward to seeing you again with more content for you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.